This narrative is adapted directly from the historical journals, exploration logs, and documented events of the 1804 to 1806 Corps of Discovery expedition, commissioned by President Thomas Jefferson. Imagine standing on the muddy banks of the Mississippi River in the spring of 1803. To your back lies the young, fragile United States, a thin ribbon of civilization hugging the Atlantic seaboard, populated by barely 5 million souls. But look, across the water to the west, a colossal, mysterious empire stretches out before you, an immense ocean of grass, jagged mountains, and roaring rivers, stretching all the way to the setting sun. In Paris, a continent away, a geopolitical earthquake is about to alter the destiny of the world. Napoleon Bonaparte, desperate for cash to fund his looming wars across Europe, offers to sell the entire French territory of Louisiana to the United States. President Thomas Jefferson seizes the moment. For $15 million, less than 4 cents an acre, the United States doubles in size overnight. 8,200,000 square miles of absolute unknown. What is out there? No one really knows. Are there woolly mammoths roaming the high plains? Are there mountains of pure salt? Is there a continuous water route, a northwest passage, stretching all the way to the Pacific Ocean that will unlock the riches of China and India? Jefferson, a man consumed by Enlightenment curiosity and imperial ambition, decides to find out. He turns to a trusted 28-year-old Army captain from Virginia, Meriwether Lewis. And Lewis, in turn, asks a man he trusts above all others to share command, William Clark. Thus begins one of the greatest adventures in human history, the journey of the Corps of Discovery. The winter of 1803 to 1804 is spent preparing in secret. Jefferson gives Lewis a sweeping checklist: map the rivers, record the weather, take notes on the soil, note the geology, and above all, establish peaceful diplomatic relations with the sovereign Native American nations who have called this land home for millennia. Why do men risk everything for the unknown? For Jefferson, it is an obsession with reason and knowledge, a desire to fill the blank spaces of the map. For Lewis and Clark, it is an unquenchable thirst for glory, duty, and the raw, untamed thrill of discovery. Lewis and Clark do not recruit city slickers or desk-bound scholars. They want men of iron. They gather roughly 45 individuals at Camp du Bois, just outside St. Louis. Among them is York, William Clark's childhood companion, and an enslaved man who will share every hardship of the trail, holding the status of a full member of the expedition in the eyes of many stunned native tribes they meet along the way. On May 14, 1804, the winter ice breaks. The expedition piles into a massive 55-foot keelboat and 2 smaller pirogues. They push their heavy vessels out into the muddy, swirling, unforgiving current of the Missouri River. Progress on the Missouri River is grueling. The river is a living, breathing monster. It constantly shifts its channel, undermining banks and sending massive floating trees called sawyers crashing directly toward the boats. Let us look closely at the sheer weight of their logistics. The expedition carries tons of equipment: mathematical instruments, sextants, chronometers, 193 pounds of parched meal, 50 bushels of salt, heavy blacksmith tools for trading with Indians, and 14 large crates of ammunition, including 500 rifle flints. Their clothing consists of durable buckskins and wool uniforms that will soon rot under the relentless rain. The men are forced to pull, and drag their heavy craft against a current that feels determined to push them back to St. Louis. And then there are the pests. Swarms of mosquitoes so thick they black out the sky, driving the men and their horses nearly mad. Blistering summer health gives way to torrential prairie downpours. As they push deeper into the uncharted interior, discipline is tested. By August 1804, tensions boil over when Private John Newman expresses mutinous thoughts, declaring he will no longer obey orders and wants to desert to the Indians. Lewis and Clark take swift, unyielding action. A court-martial is convened on the spot. Newman is found guilty, sentenced to receive 75 lashes in front of his peers, and permanently expelled from the boat crew. A grim, necessary warning that on this river, division means death. Shortly after, tragedy strikes the party. Sergeant Charles Floyd, a beloved member of the expedition, falls violently ill with what modern medicine believes was a ruptured appendix. Despite desperate efforts by Lewis and Clark to save him, Floyd passes away, the only member of the Corps of Discovery to lose his life during the entire transcontinental journey. They bury him on a high bluff overlooking the winding Missouri, marking his grave with a cedar post, a sobering reminder of the lethal stakes of their mission. Moving onward into what is now South Dakota, the expedition faces its most terrifying diplomatic standoff yet, an encounter with the Teton Sioux, also known as the Lakota. The meeting starts cordially, but quickly sours over control of a boat and demands for heavier tribute. Warriors surround the party, hands resting on their bows and flintlocks. Tensions reach a hair-trigger pitch. Clark draws his sword, while Lewis stands his ground with lethal calm, refusing to yield an inch. Realizing that a bloodbath would destroy any hope of future passage, the Lakota chiefs eventually step back, allowing the keelboat to slip away into the current. Despite the danger, the scientific discoveries continue unabated. Lewis writes detailed, meticulous descriptions of animals completely unknown to Eastern science. The darting, hyperactive prairie dog in its sprawling underground towns, the blinding speed of the pronghorn antelope, and the majestic, terrifying grizzly bear, a creature the men quickly learn is nearly impossible to kill with a single muzzleloader shot, forcing them to hunt in groups. By late autumn of 1804, the temperature plummets below zero. Thick sheets of solid ice choke the Missouri River, making further boat travel impossible. The Corps pulls ashore in what is now central North Dakota, right in the heart of the powerful Mandan and Hidatsa Indian nations. Working tirelessly through freezing gales and howling blizzards, the men construct a massive triangular log fortress, Fort Mandan. Here, they spend a brutal winter, surviving temperatures plunging to 45 degrees below zero. But Fort Mandan becomes far more than a shelter. It becomes a vital cultural and diplomatic crossroads. The expedition hires a colorful French-Canadian fur trapper named Toussaint Charbonneau and his young teenage wife, Sacagawea, a Shoshone woman who had been captured years earlier by a rival tribe and brought north. Sacagawea is pregnant when she joins the fort. In February 1805, amidst howling sub-zero winds, she gives birth to a baby boy named Jean-Baptiste, whom Clark affectionately nicknames Pomp. That tiny infant, strapped securely to a cradle board on his mother's back, is about to accompany the expedition across an entire continent. Her presence as a nursing mother becomes the ultimate diplomatic shield, proving to every wary tribe they encounter along the way that the Corps is a peaceful, exploratory mission, not a hostile war party. Spring 1805 arrives. The ice breaks, and the journey resumes with renewed vigor. The heavy keelboat is loaded with crates of scientific specimens, live animals, maps, and journals for President Jefferson, and sent back downriver to St. Louis. The remaining core team of 33 individuals continues westward into uncharted territory where no white American has ever set foot. They reach the headwaters of the Missouri, but the landscape undergoes a violent transformation. The gentle, rolling plains vanish, replaced by the sheer, towering, terrifying granite walls of the Rocky Mountains. In May 1805, disaster nearly strikes the expedition. A sudden, violent squall hits the water, catching one of the white pirogues under full sail. The boat capsizes, threatening to plunge irreplaceable journals, navigational instruments, and critical medicines straight into the rushing water. While the panicked crew freezes, Sacagawea calmly leans over the side of the swamped vessel, snatching floating packages, books, and scientific specimens from the current, saving the entire historical record of the expedition from being lost forever. Listen to William Clark's journal entry from September 1805 as they cross the harrowing Bitterroot Mountains. We proceeded on over a tremendous mountain through snow 2 inches deep. The greater part of our men are barefooted and in a very bad condition. The weather is so cold that our hands and feet are numbed. Driven by gnawing, relentless starvation, the men are forced to slaughter and eat several of their own pack horses. They trudge through snowdrifts chest deep, freezing, exhausted, and coughing up blood from the thin, bitter mountain air. Just when they are on the absolute verge of mutiny and total physical collapse, they stumble out of the high passes and down into a warm river valley, encountering the welcoming Nez Perce tribe, who feed them roots and dried salmon, nursing them back to health from the brink of death. Now building new dugout canoes and floating with the swift current of the Clearwater, Snake, and Columbia rivers, the pace accelerates dramatically. The air grows heavy with moisture. The scent of salt fills the breeze. On November 7, 1805, William Clark looks out through the gray morning mist and writes in his immortal journal, "Ocean in view! Oh, the joy!" They have reached the Pacific Ocean, but the arrival brings no tropical paradise. Instead, they face the most miserable, punishing winter of their lives on the wet, muddy, storm-lashed coast of modern-day Oregon. For over 3 months, it rains almost continuously. Their buckskin clothes rot completely off their backs. Their food supply dwindles to spoiled elk meat and foul-tasting blubber from stranded whales. They build a damp log stockade they name Fort Clatsop. Yet even here, true democracy prevails in a historic moment. When the question arises of where to set up camp for the winter, the enslaved man York and the teenage mother Sacagawea are both permitted to vote alongside the white officers and men, a profound, staggering anomaly in early American history. March 1806. The relentless rain finally relents. The Corps packs up what little gear they have left and turns their heavy canoes back toward the sunrise. The return journey is faster, riding the downstream currents, but no less perilous. On September 23, 1806, the boats finally round a bend in the river and slide smoothly into the harbor at St. Louis. The docks erupt. Citizens rush to the shoreline, cheering, weeping, and shouting in absolute disbelief. For months, the country had assumed them dead. The ghosts have returned. The achievements of the Corps of Discovery defy belief. They traveled nearly 8,000 grueling miles round-trip across an untamed, hostile continent. They mapped the American West with astonishing accuracy, using sextants and chronometers, creating foundational charts that would guide pioneers, trappers, and cartographers for decades. They meticulously documented 178 new plant species and 122 new animal species previously unknown to Western science. And they established peaceful, complex diplomatic contacts and trade networks with dozens of sovereign Native American nations. The Lewis and Clark expedition was much more than a military mission or a scientific survey. It was the moment the young United States looked across its vast, untamed horizon, stepped off the edge of the map, and dared to walk into the future, proving that human endurance, curiosity, and collaboration could bridge an entire continent.